All right. Good morning, everybody. So sorry about the delay. We were having some technical difficulties, as always, with Kire. So, welcome to the Reinventing the Tattoo Monday morning drawing group. Sorry, it's my ESPN. I'm your host, Kirsten Franklin, and I host also the Thursday morning fundamentals. There we talk about pretty much fundamentals of art and tattooing and how they relate to each other. We learn some new terms, we do assignments, kind of like the Monday morning drawing group. And whew, so sorry once again about the delay. All right, so welcome, like I said, to the Monday morning drawing group. This is from the Reinventing the Tattoo community, a place for tattooers, apprentices, and collectors to unite under all things tattoo. We encourage that you join in these live stream events and real world events where we offer a new option with connecting with each other for the better. From developing your art to getting down to the technical of your skills, surrounded by like-minded peers, you can see us beaming out with events every day. From live tattooing to drawing groups and one-on-one classes, you can find all of this at the online community.reinventing the tattoo, or you can find it on any Apple Store or Google Play Store. The icon is like a little R. It's really cute. All these episodes can be found on demand in the folder section. If you can hear us, be sure to tag us and a friend who may benefit from this experience and knowledge as well as yourself. We here at Reinventing the Tattoo are beaming out to 5 channels 24/7. If you go to reinventing247.com, you can enter to win a free goodie bag that has some gifts from Rock, Cheyenne, and Dallas Pro. For those who don't know, we have several shows, including this one. We have Sunday at 1 p.m. with Jason Leeser. Sunday, 9 p.m. Tattoo Weekly with Gabe, Lauren, and Jake Meeks at Fireside. Monday morning at 9 a.m. with me here, Kire Franklin. 9 p.m. Monday with Guy Etchison. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. with Ricardo Sturdivant. Wednesdays at noon is the Tattoo Now Show with Gabe Ripley. Thursdays at 10 a.m. is the Thursday Morning Fundamentals with myself again. And Thursdays at noon, Tattoo Collecting Podcast with Fawn Baker, Jordan Lucas. Those are the weekly contents. More content from Andre Malcolm to BJ Betts on courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. Thank you to our sponsors for making this free for us so that we can all enjoy this amazing platform. WorldTattooEvents.com, updated tattoo events around the world, especially with COVID going on. There's been several events that have canceled or rescheduled. So if you are one of those people that likes to travel to conventions or shows or anything like that, be sure to check out WorldTattooEvents.com. That'll keep you updated on what's going on. InkjetStencils.com, making stenciling easier with a mess-free print system, easier on yourself and your apprentice to get the job done. Of course, thank you to Raw Pigments at rawpigments.co, acrylic-free vegan. It's amazing. I use them myself all the time. I'm actually slowly switching over to that brand. So if you want a new pigment company to try out, feel free for sure. Check out rawpigments.co. Dealize Pro or dermalizepro.com, help tattoo clients around the globe. And of course, Gabe Ripley from Tattoo Now. He's been doing this and actively working on it for 25 years. And of course, GuyAtchison.com. He's got his prints, he's got machines, he's got paintings, he's got all of his books that you can get there. Once again, GuyAtchison.com. You can take a walk through the Hyperspace Studio. Like, it's all an amazing experience. Feel free to check it out. Thank you to our affiliates, ecofriendlytattoosupplies.com, Apprenticeship Diaries, and Fireside Tattoo. And of course, real world events that are going on. We are going down the list quite rapidly. We just did the Paradise BYOB in the beginning of October. Belgium in November with Gabe and Ivana. They may be doing seminars there. Next May is Hell City. Don't yawn. Oh. Next July is the River City Tattoo Invitational, and next October is the Paradise Tattoo Gathering that you will not want to miss. If you'd like to host, go to management@reinventingthetattoo.com. And for those who this is your first time here, so pretty much you're going to be going to the Reinventing the Tattoo app. In events, there's going to be the Monday morning drawing group, and there's going to be a watch show, and then right next to it's going to be the artist zoom in, and that's what you hit to come join us on here and draw with everybody and chat with everybody, ask questions, all that fun stuff. But you will need to have the Reinventing the Tattoo app and log in, which is free for some, unless you try to do the subscribers edition. So from there, for the subscribers edition, you get the Reinventing the Tattoo canon, which they're updating chapters all the time. And you also get to go to the Monday morning drawing group with Guy Edgerson, which pretty much you get one-on-one time with him. We get to talk about your art. You guys do assignments for the week. You meet great people there. So feel free to check it all out and hop on in and say hello. I know today is the day right after Halloween, so I don't know really if anybody's going to be joining, but the topic of the day was going to be what you guys were going to be doing and what you guys did do for Halloween, and if it was cold or not cold or rainy or not rainy. I definitely want to hear all your Halloween spoopy stories. But while people are joining in, we'll make sure it all works, first of all. And so it definitely works. I just added myself in here. Okay, so what I'm working on today was the same thing I was working on last week. This little painting here, and don't mind me if my camera quality seems a little off. For some reason, my webcam's not working. Today's been like a slew of technical problems, and I do not do well with technical problems. I really don't. It's if anything out of the two things that I know how to do with technology happen, it's I just like have no idea. Even though I was raised throughout like my public schooling of doing technical things like Microsoft Word and stuff like that, I don't. And I'm sure Jason Leeser's out there just like with his hand between his head, just like, oh my god. I can tap really fast, so that's what I know. But truthfully, that's about it. All right, so I'm gonna try and face the camera over on this way. I don't know why it's not working. I'm checking everybody's comments. Hello to everybody. All the thumbs up, love it. Feel free to come join us today on the Reinventing the Tattoo app. You can come on in and join me here and talk about stuff. So I'm not talking myself all by myself. Let me see how I can just tilt this over here. There we go. So I'm pretty much, this is what I've been working on as I'm connected to a slew of wires. And of course, that's not going to work either, because I was expecting my actual webcam to work today. But once you think things are going to work, do they ever really work? No. All right, so this is pretty much what I've been working on. I started this at the Paradise BYOB, and now I'm here. I kind of wish I had a better plan for this, because some of the stuff that is here is kind of gonna have to get fixed. Like we have, I don't know how well anybody can see this, not very well, but best I can do, right? So pretty much like within here, I feel like it's really bad if you have like a piece of element like come out and off the canvas, because then I think to myself, if somebody's gonna frame it, right, they're gonna have like this big chunk that's missing, that's kind of like a huge focal point in this piece. So okay, everybody's saying hi. Hello, everybody. Hi to Kenneth Blair. Hi, Enheim. Sandra. Hello, everybody. everybody's so on today. I'm glad that everybody's up and doing stuff day after Halloween. That's amazing. But pretty much what I did is I pretty much just quickly fixed it to make it much smaller. And sorry, Mr. Dave Ripley's talking about my lighting situation. So well, let's let me see if turning off the light would be better for you, Gabe. Like I said, my webcam is for some reason not around. So today this is as best as I can get for the day. Because we're using just the video camera from my laptop. That's the next step in this realm here, is to get a better camera setup for everything, because right now I don't really have the best of things. So let's continue on here. All right, so we're gonna do a little painting today. I know it's really tough to see, guys, but unfortunately this is the best we can do for today, unless I face this directly like this. And I don't have curtains to the outside windows, so apologize for that. But thank you guys so much. Hello, Edward. Hello, Rob. Hello, everybody. Tell me about your Halloween. What'd you guys do? Feel free to hop on. The link's open. It's ready to go. So pretty much what I've been doing, my palette for this, it's been a lot of, I have them here. I tried out the new Liquitex heavy bodies, and I really, really, really like them. They're a little tacky. They have like the tacky texture to them, but once you break them down with water, it's very movable medium. And I think it's a lot better for myself if let's say, I wanted to make like this yellow ochre color, even though it's just yellow ochre. Let's say I had to make it with the heavy bodies. I feel it's a lot easier to make a larger amount of one color and to apply it nicely. Than to do with the regular acrylics and just consistently having to remake it. Even though it does teach you very well on how to make that color consistently, you also, it just makes it an easier process if you just use these heavy bodies in that way. At the same time, I kind of learned that these heavy bodies are good for like after the underpainting, because we always have like an underpainting. So after that underpainting, it's really, I think it'd be really great to apply a heavy body to it. Bless you, cat. And in that way, so for my palette here, I have, let's see. I always have some raw umber. I always have this, if Jason was here, he would know how to pronounce this. Phallocanine green. And then I always use this dioxin purple. And then I, of course, have my very almost empty bright aqua green here. And then after that, I have a phthalo blue that I always use. Must have fallen, but I always use a phthalo blue or blue that's like this. Same as the green, phallocanine blue. So both of these, the green and the blue, and even the purple, the reason why I use these is because they're almost like those eternal concentrated palettes, where it's like almost the absolute rawest form of these colors that you can get. And I like starting off with those because then I feel like the world is your oyster. You can just go into whatever direction you feel like when you do that. And we have a couple people in here. One's got himself muted, and one is our dear friend Melissa Sink, as they're getting loaded in here. Christine says, love that painting. Thank you very much. skulls are always a fun study when you're trying to study color theory and stuff like that. So if anybody loves color theory and wants to study it, this is the way to do it. Just do a skull study on a canvas, and honestly, it's the best thing since sliced bread. All right, we got Melissa coming in here. Slowly but surely. I saw her for a second. She'll help me not talk by myself. All right, so pretty much I'm at the stage of this painting now where I'm starting to like finalize this part, except for the nose. Don't ignore the nose. But I'm really gonna start going in here now with like the swirls, because I don't know if this is just myself. You guys can comment down below that I hyper focus in on one area of a painting and then just ignore the rest of it. And I'm like, oh, this is going so well. And then the rest of it is just unfinished. And I'm like, oh, geez, I gotta go do that stuff too. Don't worry. And sorry, my cat's trying to get my paintings. All right. Good morning to our dear friend, Melissa Singh. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Melissa.
Morning.
How you doing? I see you're doing that painting, which I think is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having some fun with it this morning. I'm hoping my internet is better now. I had it on the Wi-Fi. It wasn't working out so great.
I feel like today's just a technical difficulty day, truthfully, because the reason why I was a couple minutes late was because of just pure technical difficulties. And even my webcam is just not recognizing with my computer for the first time since I bought it. So I don't know. So I think I think the internet, Melissa, is just freaking out. I don't think it's you.
Yeah, it started last night for me with slow things happening, and then it kind of followed on to this morning. So I'm hoping internet's good, but I think I read an article the other day that's something about a sun flare or sun like explosion type thing on the sun's surface was actually going to cause this around the 31st of this month.
Well, that's terrifying. Which makes total sense because at my shop, the internet's been just insanely horrible.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that said it was going to be disturbing, technological communications, that kind of thing.
All right, well, I'm gonna put you on the spot here and put you on spotlight to see if I can turn myself around and not have myself.
Good luck with that one.
Right? And not have myself, I'm like attached to all these wires, like I'm in the hospital or something. So I'm gonna try and move myself around while I have you here. But tell me about this little painting here. So this is on wood. Is this acrylic? Is this watercolor? What you got going on here?
So it's acrylic. Can't see the whole thing, so I'm trying to kind of move my camera around so you can. I think it's probably about 18 in length, maybe 10 at the widest point. Wood plank. This is what I started drawing last week, I think, on the iPad. And then I got all the line work and stuff drawn, and I started doing this little bit of a value study.
All right.
And busted out the paint.
All right. Where did you get your wood panel from? If you don't mind me asking.
I can't remember. It's been about a year. I've had it primed and ready to go for like a year.
So you get your materials all like super ahead of time, or do you just like get it hoping that you're going to do something and then forget about it and they're like, oh, I could do that on this?
So I have a bit of an obsession with panels.
Okay. I can understand that. Don't laugh. I get that. That's 100%.
I like
point.
Yeah, I like all sorts of shapes and stuff. And so when I find panels that I like, I will buy. And then, if I usually prep like between 5 and 10 panels at a time. for whatever reason other than when the idea sparks me and I have something that I need to figure out what it's going to go onto. That's what I do.
All right. Do you buy them like at like Michael's or something like that, or do you buy yours from online?
So it depends. I usually look for sales. I've this past month it's been mostly Turkel panels,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
just
the
gonna mention
imperfect
that.
ones. I've got all of their Halloween ones right now. And then from there it's Michael's, it's Blick. I usually buy, like I said, in bulk or when things are on sale. And then I just hold on to them like a dragon.
A dragon? Is that what dragons
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Dragons hoard, treasures, that kind of thing.
I did not know that. I didn't know that they had like the mental capacity to be like, I'm going to hoard this. I'm gonna truthfully. Let's see if that's I actually just may have made it worse. Good. I swear to God,
There are days.
today. I know, and today is this is not the day today. For technology. This is insane right now. Which like like it's only because of like this is just the camera that's in the computer, so obviously it's not going to really be good with outside lighting, but the outside really isn't that bright out. It's pretty partly cloudy, and so so I guess for this session I'm just going to have to look like I live in heaven, so don't know what to tell everybody. Y'all can see the painting I'm doing. It looks pretty similar out in person, so I guess this is what we got today.
I've always had the problem of needing enough screens to be able to see everything because my phone gets put on a holder, and then I have an alternate screen to be able to see what everybody else is doing. And if I'm in a class, then it's even a third screen, so I totally get the whole technology thing.
Awesome. Well, honestly, I think this is great, Melissa, because you and I are picking quite similar palettes for our skulls.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I mean, if we, of course, I got to turn back around. I'll show my other painting that I did while I finished it at the Philly convention. And I started painting when I did this painting, and then I started the skull painting. I started to recognize that like I'm starting to morph to a certain palette for myself, and that palette is like these like yellow ochres to teals to like dioxin purples to like you know what I mean. So
Yep.
do you naturally form to that same yellow ochre to cool palette, or are you really all over the place?
I would say I'm all over the place. It depends on how I start. So with acrylics, I have two different versions, and one is like, so I use Arteza. I found their stuff. It's pretty decent mid-range, a good price, but they also have their light fastness rating on there for each color. This is like their 60-piece set, and so with this one, I would say I'm more restrictive on what the color palette is because I'm actually choosing what colors and then working within those. But when I just grab like their big tube thing, which is I think maybe 12 or 14 colors, it tends to go more all over the place because I wind up actually mixing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like it's much easier to go from like one complementary color to the other in any situation. And especially if you're just trying to learn color theory and this is like your introduction to color theory, I always feel like it's best to do transitions from like complementary colors, in my opinion. I just feel it's a lot easier for everybody. It's easier for myself. It's more pleasing to the eyeballs. It's all of the above.
I think when I started this, I was more preoccupied with figuring out how to make the front of the skull come forward and keeping the other in the back. And so I was more concerned with where the warmth and where the cool was.
Okay.
It just happened to kind of pop out at me and in the primaries the way that they are. But also wanting to keep with more of like a natural tone in the stuff up here, the framework.
Yeah. No, that's what are you gonna do for the little moth boys there?
So they're gonna have little glowy butts because they are fireflies.
That's amazing. Little glowy butts. I like that. Who doesn't like glowy butts?
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why I did fireflies, but I just did. I was like, hey, it'd be really cool if I had like this off ambient type glow that leads your eye up into the top.
Yeah. Yep. No, trust me, I'm a stickler for those really bright colors, quote unquote, right? Because you can't make bright colors unless it's surrounded by a bunch of gross muted colors, right?
Right? That's how it works.
So, but great. What kind of brushes are you using?
I have no idea.
Honestly, I feel that.
So years ago, my mom was she was garage shopping, garage sailing, whatever, and she found this artist guy who was selling all of his stuff because he was battling cancer, and she bought all of it, like
Mhm.
literally just all of it, and brought it home. Didn't really pay attention to whether it was stuff I used or not. And at the time, I wasn't really painting, but it's how I got my oil set started, as well as like this. Gosh, there must have been probably 100 to 150 brushes or something. Some of them were squirrel hair, some of them were like synthetics, some of them were, I mean, it was just all over the board. And I tend to lose track of what brushes are what. I just make sure to try and keep them clean.
Wait, squirrel hair?
Yeah.
That's
You
interesting.
have
I've
some,
never painted with like a specific haired animal.
I know that some of these brushes were like $200 a piece. They were not cheap.
Oh, wow.
But because I didn't buy them, I don't know which ones are which. So I treat them all, nicely.
Oh, see, I don't do that. Like I'm the type of artist that will literally just leave them in the water bucket for days. I guess.
I
And then
even
come.
have
Oh
I
yeah,
even
you
have
got
these
little
little
caps
things.
for them. Oh
Well,
wow.
it's because they hang up. Let's see if I can show you. I have them set. I found this little brush holder thing. It's pretty amazing, and I don't have enough space for all of them, but
I'm gonna laugh if it's the same. Oh wow, that's bougie.
yeah,
Holy shit. Where'd you get that contraption?
that is on Blick.
What?
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on. Well,
it's pretty cool.
you gotta move a little closer to that. That's amazing. If you could. Wow.
Like you
Check
can,
that out, huh?
they're all on these little things,
Yeah, that's amazing.
so it keeps the water out of the fools. Um, that I didn't find until like this last year.
Wow. I keep them in like a oh gosh. It's taken apart now, but I'll show a little bit of it, I guess. So like this is the little bucket, right? But it has like an attachment that has like the string, not the string, like the spring. And you put them in that way and they hang above the bucket so they just dry. I have that.
Okay.
It's not put together as you see, but I do have it. It does
That's great.
exist.
It's
But
having things
usually,
together so you can use them.
no, exactly. I know, right? And then I usually keep my brushes like in a stand-up folder like this so that I can pick them nicely. But even that, I have a couple Trickel brushes too. Have you tried those, or are you just a panel person?
I have not tried those. I think with brushes, unless it's a shape that I don't have, I don't even look at brushes at this point.
Really? Oh, because you
Yeah.
have, I mean, honestly, Melissa, you have so many. You have enough to like
Right?
sell your own at this point.
Yeah, it's insane. There's like 200 brushes there.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, if you find yourself one day needing to um whatchamacallit, needing to get more brushes, try Tricel brushes. I'm telling you, they're pretty awesome. I only have one, and I haven't really used it only because I bought the wrong size. Only because I was like, I mean, if I go too small, I'd rather go bigger. And then I got the bigger, and I was like, wow, that's big.
Right?
But let me get it wet because it's kind of like lost its form. But I pretty much got like this lettering paintbrush, the sword as they call it.
Hmm.
Let's see here. You get it wet and I shape it. Hold on.
You'll forgive me because of the delay between screens. I don't actually see what you're showing me until a couple of seconds later.
Okay, well, I will. I mean, I'll share anyway because sharing is caring.
I'll,
But
I'll see it.
here, let me see.
It just takes it a few.
So that's the Tricel brush. When you're able to see it, this is called the sword, and it's amazing. I love it a whole bunch. So pretty much, if you lay it down, it has like this weird tip to it, where it kind of looks like just like an angle, but if it were to dry, it would actually have. Let's see, I can shape it to it. Yep, like this. So I don't know if you can still see it, but it's there in front. But it's got like this. It's got kind of like an angle going on, and then all of a sudden, close to
Okay.
the top, it's got like this like super sharp tip to it, and you can
Yeah.
do like nice, clean, straight lines with it. It's perfect. It's great.
I've got.
Oh no,
Let's see.
Melissa's gonna show
Got
me
a
her
couple of those.
bougie paintbrushes. Like,
No. These were Craft Warehouse.
heck yeah.
I have a couple of them like this, but they're a lot thicker, and they come down to a point.
Oh, we're closer to the camera a little bit. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. See those? Oh, those are nice. That's a nice brush. I mean, truthfully, be honest with me, Melissa. When you go to Blick or like Jerry's Adorama or something, how much time are you truly spending just touching brushes? Because
You don't want to know.
is it to the point where the guy has to walk over and be like, ma'am, we're closing soon?
No. I'm one of those ones that'll go into a craft store or place to get art supplies, and I'll like look around, and then I'll come back to it if I really want it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's I definitely have to go with somebody else that's not an artist, so that
It,
way I don't get enabled to buy the whole store, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's
So
dangerous.
it is dangerous because then you see this cool mechanism or like this new brand of acrylic paints or like brushes or just any mediums, canvases, anything, and you're
Yep.
like, oh man, you just I mean, if I just pushed around a couple bills, I could probably afford it right now. I guess. And then you get it in your house and you're like, I have no use for this right this minute. I guess. And thus it sits there.
For a few months, and then you're like, yeah, I think I'll use that today.
Or up to a year, like in your case right now, and you're like, now's the time I'll use this. Like,
Right?
I knew I
It's
bought it
like
for some reason. Just didn't know what the reason was yet. That's okay.
I actually have an organized list of everything that I have inventory wise at home, so that I'm not like double and triple buying
Oh,
things.
that's very smart.
I'm a little OCD.
So that way, when you go to the store, you're like, no, I already have that. I don't need that. Oh,
Yep.
that's smart. See, that because myself, I would go into the store and I'd be like, no, I definitely don't have that. And then buy
And
it
then
and
you
then
get
get
home.
home and I have it like perfect,
Yep.
brand new, still in the package. So
Every stinking time.
yeah, And then if I obviously like if you and I went to Blake together, it would be just, you know what I mean, a train wreck of
That would be, yeah.
I had
Hours.
gone
Hours.
when I was in Miami with Ricardo and Bruno. We had gone to one of his Bruno's local art stores, and we were all in there for like a quite a bit. Even though I think we only needed like one or two things. First of all, we immediately separated, all of us, like,
Yep.
which is the first bad step, because like Ricardo like went over to the sketchbooks, I went over to the raw pigments, and then Bruno was like looking in the mediums or something, and we were just, that was the first wrong step, separated. And then I had found, I think I showed it last week, but let's see here. I should show how to do the egg temperas at some point. It really is super cool. Let me see if I have it
Yeah,
here.
that's something that I've never actually done, so it would be really cool to see something like that.
I got, so this here, I saw a rack of these and I immediately was like eye open. I was like, they have these? I was like, what? And then like I think I had Bruno behind me or something, and I just like stopped and saw these, and he was like, oh, okay. And he like walked back and he's like, I'll just leave it here. And I was just like picking up every single bottle and reading them. I was like, what are in these?
Yup.
And then I learned, so this is actual like metal, like molecule compounds together to make these pigments. So this is, it says on the back, complex silicate of sodium and aluminum with sulfur, PB29.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And I was like, that's so neato. And I had bought this book that shows you how to make like your own primers, your own gesso. It teaches you how to make any sort of medium. And at the same time, it teaches you how to make like this egg tempera thing. And I really wanted to try it out like a psychopath. And I was like, this is how the masters painted. I was like, and so I bought this and went home and immediately tried it out. But they have like several different colors for this company. This company's Gambling, if anybody wants to actually know.
Cameron puts out a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. But I'm sure the camera does not do this justice, but how like just purely pigmented these well, this pigment is. And it comes in these like little rock balls here, and it's a little tiny one of these little balls here goes so far. Because I was thinking to myself, because these were kind of pricey, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, how far do these really go as far as like when you start to actually make a paint out of them?
Right.
Like, do I have to use like 3/4 of this just for a small tube, or does a little bit go a long way? And a little bit really does go extremely far. Like a little
That's
tiny,
a nice thing.
yeah, it really is. Like a little tiny ball of it will go through almost an entire painting. And I was like, this is amazing. So I definitely will have to show everybody how to do that. It's very, very simple. You just need an egg. That's it. And you pretty much just take the egg, and you have, see, I remember this. I was being a psycho at Bruno's house with this. I was like, Bruno, do you have an egg? Yeah, are you hungry? No, I gotta paint with it. I gotta just, what? Okay, yeah, they're in the fridge. Okay. But yeah, you take like an egg, and you have to, I would be over the sink doing this for sure. So you basically crack it open in your hand, so the whole egg is in your hand, and you pretty much kind of want to separate the whole yolk from the white part. So you can do that in like several different ways, but pretty much I just kind of rinse it underwater and get rid of all the white area around it, all the sliminess, and keep the yolk in your hand. And then once you have just the yolk in your hand, you literally just toss it back and forth in your hand to kind of dry it off. And what will happen is it'll actually like get a little tacky. And then I kind of like sit with it in my hand, kind of just let it dry, because they do make it, explicit that the drier the egg yolk is, the better. But you
Huh.
don't want it to crack open in your hand. So you have just like that yolk, and it's just right in the palm of your hand, and it's kind of dry. And then what happens is you can actually like pick up the sack that the liquid is in, like you just pick it right up, and you just hover over a bowl or whatever you're going to be painting from, and you pretty much do like a quick snap of your hand, and all you want is the liquid yolk that's inside of that sack, because you don't want the sack whatsoever. You just want the yolk that's inside, and that yolk that's inside is what you paint with. And then you just take the raw pigment and you just mix it right in, and you go to town. Which I thought was super cool.
It is a really novel idea. In practice, I don't know so much because for me it's easier when I have a quick setup. If I don't have a quick setup, then I'm like, do I really want to paint?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with tattooing too, right? Like I always tell my clients, even if it's like a 3-lined smiley face or something like that, I'm like, the setup for this is going to be way longer than the tattoo. I promise you.
Oh yeah, every time.
And especially if they want it stenciled somewhere where it's got to be like absolutely straight, like it's a skeleton or something, like you have to like, you know what I mean, like this, you have to sit on the floor, you gotta like use
Right.
a monocle and like, all right, is this straight, is that so but I do agree 100% that like I wouldn't do this sort of practice unless you were just like a painting psycho and you're curious.
Right.
Because I did paint with it, and I had, I wish Ricardo was here to talk about it too. um it's very tacky, it's very difficult to work with, and it's definitely not something that I would recommend for like a fundamental level. This was just purely for my own experiment type deal, where
How
I
do
just
you,
go ahead.
sorry, how do you like them in terms of like after they've dried, as far as how you're working with them?
That's one
Um,
that's one of
that
the downfalls of it, is that it dries quicker than any regular acrylic. It dries
okay.
very quickly. And at the same time, when you mix other like acrylic colors with it, it does react well, so that you can do that. It doesn't have to be just egg tempera by itself. It could be one base of egg tempera, and then you have your other acrylics with it. Truthfully, I think it's very, very cool for everybody to check out, just to get a feel for it. It's very tacky, it's very sticky, it does not smell. Even when it dries and you put your face up against it to smell it, it smells like nothing. Like it has no scent whatsoever to it.
That's a plus.
I did read that the longevity of your painting will have an effect on it depending on your climate, because it, common sense wise, you could see it start to crack, because of the egg tempera as it
Right.
ages. So they do have, in the same book, they do have a way to seal your egg tempera painting to make it last longer. But let me see here. Do I have it in my vicinity? I probably don't. But overall, I really did like it a lot. I would use it on the side, and I would make my own pigments with it, because I do recommend that it is a good way to paint at times. It's kind of like a heavy body acrylic, truthfully. It's just a little more tackier, and it dries while you're painting it. So pretty much what I would do is, like any like oil painter, just pretty much use whatever color you're using for the egg tempera, use that to mark whatever shape you're doing. Don't try and like blend anything. Don't try to, because it may not work, and it's in the benefit of that. I'll have to post the painting that I did, or that we did in Miami with it, because it's pretty cool. It's like just some silly filigree stuff, but you can see the texture for sure in it. It definitely builds up texture a whole bunch, like in oil paintings where they have like little curved, painting textures that you see in a lot of impressionist paintings. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'd have to definitely videotape for you guys and show the what's what and the who's who of this.
I wonder if the book that you have is similar to this one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let me see if I can get the light off of it so you can see what it goes over. This is a book I picked up probably 3 or 4 years ago when I first started playing with different types of paint.
Okay. That's super interesting. And who is that by?
This one is
Mark David Sagan. Got it. Awesome. And that kind of just goes over like pretty much painting basics and whatnot.
it goes over basics, but it also goes over mediums. Well, let's see here. It tells you what supports you can use for various types of paint. And it goes over pastels too.
Oh, nice.
It goes over binders. Let's see here. Like it actually goes fully into depth of everything that you can use, everything that's in different types of paint. And I think actually in here it does also have a light fast section.
Interesting. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
taken a Jesse Smith seminar in the Paradise BYOB, and he talked about like pigments and light fasting with pigments. And I thought it was such an interesting experiment. Truthfully, hands down to any artist that just experiments off to the side outside of like actual painting and stuff like that. OG for sure. But it made me want to start light fasting all the pigments I have, just like curiosity sense. But that's kind of cool that they go over that in that book too, because it's very important.
This actually does have info on your tempera style.
Oh, there it is. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Do that and egg oil emulsions.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. One quick second, Melissa. Let me go get my book now. We're gonna share books.
Right.
I'm gonna run to my room. Hold on 1 second. All right. Let's see. It's kind of funny when I run to my room because my cat is so attached to me that he's like, "Why are you running? Do I need to run?" And then he'll run too. And it's like, what? Let's see. They
my
have
dog. She gets the zoomies.
Yeah, like he's young. He's only almost 2, so you don't really need you need to blow really hard and he'll run. So let me see. So I got.
It even goes over how to make hard stucco, soft stucco for like mural.
Yeah, mine does too. Is it the same author?
Right.
It's like, wait a minute. This is my book here, and I saw this in the Barnes and Noble. And so this is the Artist Handbook to Everything, and it's by Kate Wilson.
Okay.
And so pretty much I had seen this in Barnes and Noble because while being disappointed on how little their selection is nowadays. And I saw this book, and this book obviously was like this, and it pointed out to me, and I was like, Artists Everything Handbook. And I was like, is it really everything?
Right.
Like, why do you say everything? Is it? And I mean, it pretty much is. So I have, let's see, they have recipes in here. Okay, so yeah, they have primers, how to make your own varnish. So they have like beeswax varnish. They have how to use the varnish. Let's see.
Mine even has a area for conservation and restoration.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
So this one's got. Let's got a sticky note on it. This is how to grind your own pigments that you find out in nature to make your own oil paints. It's got, let's see, yep, glue, paint, and distemper. Then it has, and then this is the egg tempera here. So they got that. They got like it continued, so they tell you what kind of consistency it's like. They have traditional gesso primer, how to make your own. They have primers that you can make with egg. They have so many different recipes, which is so interesting to me. And it kind of is like a reality check of, our masters back in the day, like Rembrandt and all of them, they didn't have Blick.
Yeah, they didn't have stores to go back to and buy all this stuff. They had to put in all of the work every time.
Yeah, they had to make it themselves, make their own canvases. Like, I know Van Gogh like ordered his own stuff sometimes, but even then he would make like his own canvases. And it's just so fascinating to me to try and understand where they were coming from. Because if I think painting on this kind of acrylic is hard, imagine just painting only with egg tempera, because that's all you could afford at the time, and still trying to make a masterpiece out of it that lasts.
Right.
And so hats off to all the masters that have gone through it and done the whole thing. But yeah, this is why I love art so much, because it's come from such a long history of artists just trying and trial and error. And so we get here.
It's also kind of like a bottomless pit of information. There's like no ending to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. There's it, especially with like the amount of technology that we have today. It's so easy to learn anything, really. So it's kind of almost like no excuse for you to not know how to do stuff, because the information is so easily accessible. And I unfortunately don't know what it was like, back in the day before technology, having to learn art and techniques other than by word of mouth. You know what I mean?
Well, back in the day, I mean, they had their apprenticeship system and everything else, and you would copy old masterworks until you got it right. I mean, you'd have entire teams of basically minion artists beneath your master artist. So it was almost like just one long training course, and maybe eventually you got your name out there.
And it's so much easier nowadays to do that with Instagram and everything like that. But one of my coworkers that I work with at my shop was talking about how back in the day, when he was a younger tattooer, how there's only like 4 or 5 known like elite artists, quote unquote masters. And he's saying now there's hundreds and hundreds of them. It's more easily accessible for you to be successful in this industry as far as artistically, which I think I agree.
Yes, artistically, yes, but as far as getting seen above that giant grouping of people, that's the harder part at this point.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I think getting seen just happens over time, because you can't expect it to happen in a day. Even though Rome wasn't built in a day, it surely did burn down in a day. So
right. So if you think about it, by the time somebody gets actually, known, they're people are actually, following them from around the world or whatever. You got to think about how long they've been on that path to get to that point.
Oh, absolutely.
It's never a whammo thing until you hit that tipping point.
Yeah, so everybody listening here, take it into account that next time you see a master on Instagram that you look up to or something, don't say, wow, man, they must have done that in 4 hours. Say they must have done that in like 18 years, because it took them that long to get to that point, so they can wield the craft like that in 4 hours. So it's all a perspective thing.
Yeah, and some people never actually get to see those giant crowds. There are people you still don't even know about that are just as amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and that don't even have Instagram. So like, yeah, I don't do that. Which honestly, I've thought about it so often, but I'm still at that point where I'm trying to, get myself out there. So I don't have the luxury to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
I was very resistant for a very long time, both with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Um, I probably did myself a non-favor in that regard, but at the time I wasn't tattooing, so I guess, whatever.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even think to download TikTok until Jason had actually been preaching about it and saying how successful it is for tattooers. And I was like, "Ah, really?" And he's like, yeah, like people are booked out for years because of it. I'm like, "Ah."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fine. We have some comments here. Bruno says, good morning and great explanation on the egg technique with an
Hey,
egg
Bruno.
emoji and a laughing emoji because he knows how much I was being a psycho at his house. Bruno, you gotta have eggs. I have eggs. They're in the fridge. What? I gotta paint with the eggs. I guess, what? But that's what happens, right? When you fly out to see other artists, that you just you're like, all right, I guess we're painting with eggs today. It's quite funny. Bruno always says all the time how much he loves that I like always bring books to dinner and like talking about theory of everything. Like, the three other horsemen, they could literally be talking about like anything outside of art, and I'll just cut them off and be like, guys, this like egg thing is really life changing. It's like they're like, okay, here, why don't you eat something? We also have Faith. She says, my mom's obsessed with egg tempera. I played guitar for 15 years, and then all of a sudden these 5-year-olds come up on YouTube who are all better than me. Yeah, that
Right?
does happen, right? And it's just one of those situations that's like, I guess some people are born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. But let's see here. We also have people from Facebook that say hello. Hello to Tay. Says hi. Cindy says nice artwork and I love the colors. I know. Melissa and I matched with our palettes today. I think that's pretty amazing.
Right?
In my opinion. Christine says love the painting. Thanks, Christine. Look at everybody today. Everybody's joining on, saying hello. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So, what do you got? This is what you're planning on doing for the day?
No, I've got some client art I need to get on, but this is one of those things where it's kind of opening up my head for a bit so that the other comes at me unencumbered.
Yeah. Do you have like a schedule for yourself of like times that you can work on art that's not clientele related, and then times where you have to work on art that's clientele related? How do you do that?
On the fly.
Same.
It's, I try to always be productive. But sometimes you just get this nagging to work on this one thing, and so that's what you wind up doing, unless you're on a really tight deadline and you're just like, no, I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like apologizing to the piece that you have to ignore.
I think I'm in a really great position right now to where I take in a lot of walk-ins. So like drawing ahead of time isn't always like a need for me, because they're just simple walk-in stuff that you can just draw on the fly. But then I have like the weeks at times where it's getting me started used to drawing bigger stuff. And by bigger stuff, I mean like stuff I have to draw the night before.
Right.
So it's trying to figure out a schedule for myself on how I can better use my time to get artwork done and at the same time get clientele stuff done.
I think for me, it's easier just to set up a block of time. Um, you know, once a day, every week, I get home from the shop and I'm drawing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's usually on client stuff. And then my Mondays are all sorts of listening to podcasts and doing artwork, catching up for the week. And so I always try and squeeze in that time somewhere during the day to work on something personal. Um, it doesn't always happen, but I try.
Yeah.
But blocking out that time at least allows you to say, okay, well, I'm a little bit booked out on this client art. I need to get it done. So I'm going to use this time to do that.
Yeah, I understand completely. I think for me personally, I get to a point where, um, if it goes like a couple weeks and I'm only doing clientele stuff because they're just busy, like let's say during the summertime, right? Um, I feel like I'm constantly drawing for clients all the time. So when it gets to that point where it's been a couple weeks out and I haven't touched a painting or anything like that, I haven't touched something that I want to personally draw as an original, then I get like upset.
Right.
I get cranky to say the least because I'm drawing for all these clients and I want to get it done so that way I can have time to like sit and paint and not have to think about all the clients that are coming in this week, Um, so I think that's one of the struggles of a artist, like a tattoo artist or any
It's a
artist that's
little
working
bit,
for clients.
yeah, it's a lot to juggle, but it's also a little bit different. Like when you have clients that are booked out for months with you,
Mhm.
uh, at this point, everybody I'm working with, either I've worked with them before, I work with them year round, or it's one of the few brand new people that are newer to me. And a lot of times it's bigger stuff, so I'm able to kind of do the artwork once and then go, okay, well, this section I have to have prepared for this appointment.
Yeah. Yeah, I've also learned to do it in the way of like a step-by-step system. So whenever let's say like I schedule a client, right? And it's like that ramen noodle piece that I did. I scheduled him, I think it was like a month out or something. I went home that same day and I just threw on like two reference photos and then a very quick thumbnail. So that way, that's step one done, right?
Right.
There is a thought process out on the Procreate, on the paper, on whatever I'm doing it on. It's a process. It's already there. So that way, when I keep going back to it, and maybe like a week later, if I'm really caught up on everything and I'm kind of having like an artist block moment, I'll go to that bigger piece that I have to do, and then start like an even quicker sketched outline of it, like on his arm or something, and then move on. So that way, like when it comes to that night before or 2 nights before or a week before, I have like steps that are already done, and that saves me more time than I could ever imagine than doing it the night before. So I felt that process really helps a lot. But honestly, once again, I'm at the stage where I really don't do a lot of that kind of stuff respectfully. So really, I have a nice leeway of being able to focus on my artwork at home.
Right. You'll get to this point where you're just you've got so much going on that you don't quite know how to organize it, and so you think about it,
I know
and
it's like,
eventually some kind of organization works out of it, whatever's,
yeah,
and sometimes you'll change it a few times because you're sitting there going, this isn't working.
yeah. I'm sure it'll happen throughout my years here. And we're coming up on my 1 year anniversary, so it's really,
Yoo-hoo.
it's not that it's not that problematic right now. But it's kind of just because we have an apprentice at our shop, and it's kind of like the transition between like apprentice and like first year tattooer. Like there's such a vast difference, because you're truly like on your own, and you kind of recognize all those things that your mentor had said. And one of those things was just not being able to have time for anything. Like, because if you think about it, right, you're tattooing all day. Let's say you tattoo from 12 to 8, and then you go home by like 8:39, you eat something, and then you're still drawing for the next day. Like that still
Yep.
happens. And then when you're doing that between like Tuesday through Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday, you have to like, I don't know, clean your house and do that stuff, go grocery shopping. And at the same time, you want to draw and paint things that you want to paint and draw. Well, you have to also make time for that.
Yep.
So it's like, you know, the apprentices, a lot of times, like it's an apprentice mentality to be like, well, I don't have time for anything. Why am I always here? Like, I'm like cleaning stuff and like not getting paid for this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, like, what happens if your client cancels? You're not getting paid.
Yep.
Because you're still gonna be there. So it's just like a mentality that I hope, you know, I can help out with these apprentices, as far as don't focus on what is or isn't, just focus on like trying to get yourself into a routine to survive in this industry, because it's a 24/7 working industry. Even when you go off into your vacations, I assume your vacation is going to be going to conventions. That's your traveling right there. So you're still
Yep.
working. I think the only times that I didn't like seriously draw, no, I can't name one. Just kidding. I was gonna say like out in Miami, but even then I painted like crazy. So, and I helped with that like huge charcoal thing that where they were doing. So it's a consistent basis. So if you are out there and you're listening to this and you want to be a tattooer and everything, that's cool and all. But remember that, you know, you never stop working until you're in the grave. And even then, I think you're still working.
So true.
So
Yeah, but you gotta love what you do.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely, it's been an eye opener for myself for sure. Transitioning from apprentice to first year tattooer, because you know, now it's all up to you to get it all done. So I'm grateful that my mentor was the type to really make me do everything. And so that way now I'm not doing as much as I was. So now it's like a lot easier for me. Like, you know, before as an apprentice, most apprentices, they work 2 jobs. They work the apprenticeship and then they work whatever job they get to work to pay bills. And then my mentor had me do like his scheduling and answering his clients and, you know, being present at the shop 24/7 and being present by his side 24/7. So it was like overload of things to do. So now that I have one less job, and because I'm working full time and I'm doing a lot of walk-ins, I have a lot of more freedom. And it's like, oh, I can manage all this. This is no big deal. It was a cakewalk.
I wish that I had had that kind of foresight in my training, but here in Oregon, it's a bit different.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about how it was in Oregon for you, because I mean, I really do want to visit Oregon. You know, maybe I'll come visit you, Melissa, and hang out
That'd
and
be rad.
do a guest spot or something. But I definitely want to check Oregon out because it's beautiful. It's the exact landscape that I like. So, but I hear that it's quite difficult as a tattoo artist out there.
Um, Starting off, like you don't have in the schools, you don't really have that one-on-one like what you would with an apprenticeship. And mind you, I don't know enough about apprenticeships because I didn't go through one.
Mhm.
But there's definite upsides and downsides. Upsides is you get a lot more of the medical side of things. So going into it, you're more prone to not have those bad habits because they're not passed on to you because you learn all the health side first. But the other is, you know, as far as artwork goes, I don't think the Oregon curriculum really gives enough emphasis on that. So when you come into it, you kind of have to have those skills already.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Like, I feel like that's a sense anyway. I mean, my mentor was very adamant on me being able to draw fundamentals first before being able to even do anything related to tattooing. Uh, and here in Massachusetts, you do have to get all of your certifications. What kind of certs do you have to get in Oregon?
So we have to do bloodborne pathogen, first aid, CPR. Those are all your standard. You've also got 10 hours of continuing education every year.
Mhm.
And then of course just your standard licensing. But I think one of the biggest things that's different is the continuing education as a requirement by the state.
Interesting. How long is that for you guys?
So that's 10 hours every single year.
Even when you're licensed?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. See, okay. So let's talk about this then. So our apprentice, great human being, he actually helped change the laws in Amherst, Massachusetts for apprenticeships because they have separate laws, obviously, for apprentices and for tattooers. So it got me thinking, I was like, why is it that tattooing, as far as regulation, is a state by state ordinance when it really could be just an overall, this is how you do this type of situation? I just think it's I don't know why it's like that. Do you know
I
why?
think it's part to do with each state governs differently in any general sense of the word when
Yeah.
it comes to any kind of thing really. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part is that while granted we are in a field that deals with health, I think tattooing is still fairly in its infancy as far as the regulated side.
Mm,
And so a lot of your regulations come into play either involuntarily, and so you have to fight with it, much like with the pigment thing, or you wind up actually having, a government body that likes to work with your tattooers in that regard. So I think the reason it's so marginalized from state to state is just, I think most of the states as a whole try to work with the tattoo artists because they know more in that field.
yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. It's definitely like a regulated thing. Uh, Here in Massachusetts, it's not as bad as Oregon. We don't. I'm sure it was a very big awakening for you where you like went somewhere else and they're like, yeah, we don't have licensing. You can just do what you want. What? Because I was thinking about like going to Arizona at one point to do like a not a guest spot, but pretty much just go out there and observe. And I was like, I don't. At the time, I didn't have a license yet, and I was like, I don't have a license yet. I don't know, like I don't know anything. And my friend had messaged me back, and he was like, "You don't need one right here." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't. Nobody has a license here." I was like, "What?" Like it was just absolutely blasphemy for me because in Massachusetts you need so much stuff and a license on top of it, and it's regulated not by the state but per town you go to. So even if I were to go like the bridge over to the next town, I still need to reapply for a brand new license and pay for that. Like
That's bizarre.
it is bizarre.
Like Oregon is
What?
one license for the state, done.
No, this is a city and town by town thing. So and the rules are all different town by town. So it
Oh
makes it
my
even
gosh.
more difficult for apprentices because let's say like here where I live, it has different rules than where I work. And then they have different rules than what Boston has. Boston's the worst in my opinion because you have to have like all these testings done medically to make sure like I don't know like to make sure you don't have like tetanus or something. Like they make you go through all these like medical testings just before even sending an application. And I'm like, what the hell? And they're all different pricings as far as licensing goes. They're all different regulations as far as like tattooing goes, and different certifications.
That's strange.
It is strange. It's very strange. Um, so, and I think that's because in Massachusetts, like tattooing was illegal around here for quite some time. So now that it's not illegal anymore, they're like, I don't know what to do. I guess I guess everybody will just figure it out for themselves. So like I said, it makes it difficult for apprentices because let's say like you are apprenticing in my town, right? And it doesn't go well for that apprenticeship. And you now have to find a new mentor and a new place to apprentice from. It's going to be very difficult, not on top of trying to find somebody else to take you on, but as far as regulation goes. So for apprentices, they have either a 1.5 year apprenticeship or a 3 year long required apprenticeship. I've seen either you need your high school diploma or you don't have to have your high school diploma. I've seen you need all these certifications or you don't need to have all these certifications. You got to pay for this thing. You don't have to pay for this thing. So
That's
it's
confusing.
it's insane. So every single time you move to a new town or try to find an apprenticeship in whatever town, you then have to look up all of the regulations and practically study the laws to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And at the same time, in order to transfer your apprenticeship to somebody else, you have to have written proof from that beginning mentor that you did work there. And if they're not willing to give it to you because of whatever reason, you have to start all over again. So don't know what to tell you. So it's insane.
That's
It's really
crazy.
bad.
How do they handle people that come in and guest spot?
They have temporary licensing. They for sure, but you have to have all your certs. If you don't have all your certs, you can't get a temporary license, and you still have to pay for that temporary license.
So what's the search requirement? Is it as strict as what it is for someone just tattooing in your state, city, blah blah?
As I don't think so. I think as honestly, truthfully, as soon as you get licensed once in Massachusetts, they really don't care. But it's so if you come in already licensed, then it's no problem. But if let's say you're coming from a state like Arizona where they don't have licensing and you don't have any of your certs, you're gonna have a difficult time.
Gotcha.
They make it difficult in that sense. That I think that's why they don't do a lot of Massachusetts conventions besides Boston. Like the one that they have close to me, because I'm sort of like central Mass at this point, almost central Mass, kind of like Western Central. But I'm closer to Connecticut than I am to Boston. So they have a Hartford tattoo convention that most of my shops go to. And licensing in Connecticut's not difficult. It's just Massachusetts. I don't know why. So it's very irky to me that they do it in a town by town thing, because I think that's just weird. Like
it is weird.
And when the Apprentice was looking at trying to change the laws, because if they don't have apprenticeship laws, they won't accept an apprentice. So they were trying to figure out what to do, and they pretty much just copied the town over right next to that. It's like, well, if you're so willing to do that, why can't you just all go onto one single basis and do it that way? Because I was trying to apprentice out in Boston at one point, but I'd already had gone through like 2 technical apprentices or mentors, I should say, and neither one were willing to write any sort of letter that said that I was there for the 3 years that I was there. So unfortunately, I couldn't go. And at the same time, as like somebody that's trying to mentor an apprentice, that's already difficult in itself. And then on top of all the paperwork that you have to do to vouch for them, it's like, geez. So it's it's definitely an alarming thing, and it definitely is inspiring me to really want to try and change that because of how ridiculous it is, and to kind of protect the future tattooers, because I think it should be way less regulated as it is, only because it's going to help take people out of the scratcher situation. You know what I mean? Like, because go ahead.
I think the regulations, I mean, as long as it's coming from a point of understanding what it is on our side, because you can get laws and stuff in there that are just, you're looking at it going, this person has no clue what it's like in the tattoo industry. Awesome.
No,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. But it's like in the sense of in the town by town situation, is the sense of like if I was an apprentice, right, and I couldn't find anybody to mentor me because A, regulations are so difficult for a mentor because they have to keep up to date with all of this stuff. And B, as an apprentice to try and get regulated under these laws, you think that's going to stop me from tattooing? No.
well, in all honesty, so Oregon, in order to be able to teach, and I don't know all the details on this because I've looked it up a few times, but it's a little uh, sparse at the moment. But in order to get your, to be able to teach for tattooing, you actually have to have a teacher's license. It's
Oh, see, I like that
different than
though.
like a regular school license. It's a vocational teaching license, and you have to go
Yeah.
through a bit of a rigmarole to get that. But so in a sense, it's the same thing in that regard, what you're referring to with, whoever's teaching you there. They have to keep up to date with all this stuff. I think in that aspect, um, that's what, at least here, I think that's one of the things that's beneficial, is that you have to be licensed to teach in order to teach. And that kind of opens up that other financial venue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do agree that there needs to be some sort of regulation. Like I think having your certs is very important. Because I have my bloodborne pathogen, my CPR, my first aid, I had to do an anatomy and physiology course. I think that's all very important
Yeah,
as
most
a
definitely.
tattooer. Because let's say like you have a client that all of a sudden like passes out and also seizes, like you need to know what to do. And don't say that doesn't happen. I've seen it. So
Thankfully, I have not been through the seizing part, but
I never thought, like, I did read about it and learn about it, but I was like, what is the rarity that this is actually going to happen? And then I saw it and I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, this is like insane right now.
I
Um,
have tattooed people that have seizures. Like that's part of their medical conditions, and that's kind of terrifying at
yeah,
first.
this was completely not like a medical thing. It was just because they passed out and they just started seizing. I was like, I guess it can just happen. I don't know. But I felt really bad, but I was like, oh, this is what my training is for. So it's definitely, I think, important to be understanding of all of these things, and I think but at the same time, having a town by town and city by city regulation, I just think it's a little much.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me as to why it's that many. Because I mean, you consider how many sections of the state that is. That's insane.
Yeah, and so it's kind of just like one of those things that I just think tattooing is at a point where it's industrialized enough to have a little bit more regulation by now. And I think they're doing it the wrong way with these pigments for sure. Um, just because they're saying that these pigments, and it's not even for the pigments that are going into the skin, it's because when they try and take it out, the pigments go wherever the hell they feel like going and they go to your lymph nodes and cause cancer. That's the whole thing. But if it has nothing to do with the pigments that are going into your skin, why are you trying to regulate the pigments rather than regulating how it's coming out of the skin? So,
Right.
I mean, these people are paying and signing up to get a tattoo. We should be informing them that they do have metals in them and that they have things that aren't supposed to be inside your body, you know. But if they plan on removing it, they need to understand X, Y, and Z. Like I think that's all that needs to happen. I don't think they need to take our pigments away. I think that's a little ridiculous. I guess it's like if I feel like they're trying to treat us like children. It's like what?
Well, from what I understand, there's proof and then there's not proof of what is going on with the pigments, and getting to the bottom of that before they ban something, I think, is key.
Yes, absolutely. Like I understand they're not FDA approved, and that's immediately to the big wigs going to be alarming. Um, so I mean, getting pigments FDA approved, I think, is one. Understanding what's inside our pigments, two. Because really, obviously, to protect the pigments, companies and what they use, all they put on the back of the bottles is like glycerin and like witch hazel or whatever, because that's all they use to break down the pigments. Um, but as far as actual chemicals, or not chemicals, but materials that are inside of the pigments, like the bottle I just read, right? This is ultramarine blue, and it's got aluminum and silicate sodium and sulfur.
You can find all of the chemical, well, most of the chemical ingredients, at least by generalized
Yeah.
information through some of the books and stuff that have been posted about the medical side of tattooing. I've got 2 or 3 books here that actually go into what the chemical compositions are, at least what the substance is that makes the color.
You seem like you got a lot of books like I do.
I'm a bit of a bookworm.
I think I bought like 6 books within the last week, because there's 2 bookstores in my town, and they're not like a Barnes and Noble. They're like a mom and pop's bookstores, which honestly are my
Nice.
favorite, because you can find some gems in there. And
Right.
I had told myself when I started this book venture that I wouldn't buy a new book until I finished one, respectfully, because
Good
I'm
luck with
just
that.
right. It did not last long, Melissa. It did not. Because so like it worked for a little while. Like I was really going through some books, and then I went to that one bookstore and I was like, oh man, because the art section that they have is much vastly amazing. Like it's so great. And they had I was looking for a color theory book, but not like a color theory book where there's like pictures and this is a complementary color. Like I was looking for like one step above fundamental level, just to like get more in depth with it. And they had several at that bookstore, and I was like, geez, I guess. Whoops. And then my friend of mine actually sent me a book from 1867 about the history of painting, and I was like,
rad.
oh geez. So now I have so many books I need to read and have. And I know last year you had recommended that I do the Right Side of the Brain book, which I still haven't gone all the way through. So I still have to finish that one too.
It's pretty dense if you're going through the actual lessons in it, like actually doing them alongside when you're reading them.
Absolutely. We got a comment here that says from Faith. She says some of it is a state money grab while devoting minimum resources. Florida, you need your bloodborne and shop health code. You can tattoo anywhere in the state. Yeah, I mean, anybody that has moved to Massachusetts, it's I'm speaking from the person that lives in Massachusetts. They try to squeeze every last dime out of you. They really do. So if there's any price that they can put on something, be it a permit or anything like that, I fully believe that that's just what it's for. But if they just made it a statewide price, and then the money that you just sign up for goes to that town, then I don't see an issue. It's just far as just, it's not so much like the money part, it's more of just the rules that are different. Like, why are they so vastly different?
Right.
So like, why do I have to have some certs in one town and then literally walk 2 minutes to the state or the town line, and now it's completely different? That's just weird.
It makes me wonder with how confusing it is for a tattooer in that position, like having to know all these things. How difficult it is for the consumer to know these things.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be insanely confusing.
And I don't know if they have it for your state too, but they actually have a like a blacklisting list too of people that can't get licensed anymore.
They don't have anything like that, like public record, but there are ways to be able to file complaints and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like you can see enough of some things sometimes to be able to get the gist that that's not the person you want to go to, but there's nothing that actually blacklists someone.
Yeah, that's what they have in Massachusetts that I think is kind of weird too. Because it's a full list, like a public record of a list of people that aren't allowed to work at a shop or be tattooed, get a license anywhere. And
I would think that'd be kind of beneficial.
I mean, it is for sure. It just pretty much just stops the scratchers from getting jobs at a studio. But if they were to have that, I just feel like the regulation part should just be like equal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Try not to make it so difficult for people to get licensed if you're gonna put them on a list so that they can't get licensed.
Right.
Just ass backwards. But this is how Massachusetts works, really. It like they preach so much about being very liberal, but as far as tattooers go, it's still like they think every shop is a biker shop still, which I think it's a lot more different now than it was. But yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, it truly is. But we are like 38 minutes over, so I am going to call our day. This was a fun conversation, Melissa. Thank you for joining me, so I don't have to talk about myself.
You're most welcome.
I always get nervous. I was like, whenever it gets like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm gonna be here by myself. Like, okay, what are we gonna talk about? But thank you so much, Melissa. Let me spotlight you here, and you can. I don't know if I can spotlight you because for some reason the button went away. So let me just put you on speaker view, and you can tell everybody where they can find you.
So my name is Melissa Sink. You can find me at Instagram, MAC_MISSA. I'm located out in Staten, Oregon, just a single artist shop. I do all sorts of stuff, painting, blah, blah, that kind of thing.
Got it. Awesome. I can't wait to see the blah blah.
Well, that's the 6 a.m., 7 a.m. ramblings.
Yeah. Oh, is that what time it is there? Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm 3 hours behind the programming time.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for joining. And I always wonder why, like, I was like, I always like see Melissa and I know Melissa, but I've never seen Melissa's face. And I get why, because it's 6 to 7 a.m. I don't want anybody looking at me either.
Yeah, I'm rocking a bathrobe. I haven't brushed my hair. I'm drinking my coffee and I'm painting.
Hell yeah. That's what I like to see right there. Well, that's awesome. All right, let me see here. I will try to, I can't spell it myself, so whatever. Hello, everybody. As Gabe texted me and told me that this light behind us is absolutely nuclear. So thank you guys so much for bearing with my technical difficulties today. I guess sun flares happen and they suck. So with that being said, you can find me on Instagram at Frankie Says Things and at the Reinventing the Tattoo at Frankie Tattoos Things. And pretty much I love color theory. So if you want to talk about it or egg tempera or anything we talked about today, feel free to let me know. I will see you guys this Thursday at 10 a.m. for the Thursday morning fundamentals. Do apologize for last week. That was a last minute cancellation. I had to pick up my new car and that was the only day they do it. So I felt really bad. With that being said, this is the time when I end the event. Thank you so much, Melissa. It was wonderful seeing you and I hope you come next week, okay?